Welcome to Stop the Fight, and we're back from our little hiatus. Today, we're talking Haney, Davis, post-fight. Let's go! Guys, Devin Haney versus Joseph Diaz and Gervonta Davis versus Isaac Cruz. Let's talk about these two fights. We had, I've been away for a little bit of time. I had some stuff I needed to take care of. I was tasked with something by the state. That's all I'm going to say about that. So I was away. It was difficult to keep up the podcast. And, now I'm back. That's it. We have back-to-back days with back-to-back lightweights. I told you this is the glamour division, 135 pounds. This is the division, at least for me. I've been saying it. This is where Hall of Fame careers are made. Again, let's just read some of the names. Gervonta Davis, Vasily Lomachenko, George Kambosos, Teofimo Lopez, Devin Haney, Diaz, Comey, Cruz, Ryan Garcia, Jose Linares, Javier Fortuna. Guys, the top 10, anyone could be champ in the top 10. This is a loaded division. Loaded. Absolutely loaded. This is an insane division, again. And we had two of its marquee fighters in Devin Haney and Gervonta Davis fighting a week after George Kambosos pulls off the huge upset against Teofimo Lopez. I mean, Teofimo's going up now, so I guess he's leaving lightweight, but we don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Because for sure, he's going to want a little bit of this action. I mean, this division's insane right now. So, again, we'll see what happens. Also, next week we get Lomachenko. We literally have, like, the four horsemen of the division fighting back-to-back. Let's talk about it's not that I would consider. I guess, yeah, the easiest of the three fights with these fighters. And this was Devin Haney against Joseph Diaz. A fight which I thought went about as expected. What's his name? Joseph Diaz is JoJo. He's a very good fighter. Very good, solid B-level guy, I feel. He beat Javier Fortuna. He had that a really nice KO over, what's his name, Fonseca. He's a good fighter. Very good fighter. I like him, but he was just a little bit, not enough of like the overall game to beat someone like a Devin Haney. But he stuck in there. He landed a good amount of shots. Towards the end of the fight, you felt that Devin Haney runs into issues, and issues he had before, issues he had against Linares. And even a couple of points against Yuri Ortiz Gamboa. And those issues are that Devin Haney, for all of, when people talk about Devin Haney, talk about this highly skilled, this master boxer, all this other stuff. He's not those things, guys. Devin Haney is a good boxer, but now I think we're able to see he's got quite a large amount of defensive flaws. He's fast, but he doesn't have quite much pop. And he likes to stand in front of you for too long. We've now seen it in 3 fights in a row against like a more solid level of opposition. The best being Linares, I feel. And I think Linares gave him the toughest of the fights of his last 3 fights. Yuri Ortiz Gamboa wasn't even a tough fight at all, but he had a few moments in there, I think. The problem with Devin Haney, and going forward, I think we have to consider this. I think up until really this fight for sure, I was considering Devin Haney to be on par with the other guys. But right now, I feel, especially against more of the heavy-handed fighters in the division, he's going to have a lot of trouble. If you stand still the way he stood still against both Linares and Joseph Diaz, against Joseph Diaz at parts, it was going to get him knocked out against Davis. It would get him very much hurt and probably knocked out against Teofimo Lopez. Those are just my picks. Now, he boxed well. He did. But he did not seem to box well enough. And sometimes I wonder if it's his lack of pop. He has enough power to get your respect, but does he have enough power to keep you off him? Which I did not see him against neither Linares nor Diaz, that he had enough of that power. He was very visibly hurt against Linares, and I think at points he was stunned against Diaz. Now, you know, was he underestimating both fighters? I think with Linares is very fast hands. He just got caught in the middle of a combination. He got caught. I think he got caught in between two of his shots that he was throwing. I think he threw a 3-shot combo off the top of my hand. He got caught with a counter shot by Linares. And you always hear this, be careful throwing more than 2 shots. A lot of people say, I want to see 3, 4, 5-shot combos. You can do that, but not against counter punchers. Not against punchers who want to sit down on their punches and wait for you to start throwing, to then throw in the middle of your combination. That's the way it's done. You know, if fighters can go 3, 4, 5 punches at you, you wait until after your first one lands, so right in between him throwing his second one, him landing the first, throwing the second one, prepping for the third, you start throwing your power shot. This way, after the second shot is thrown and already fully extended, your shot is halfway to the mark. And at that point, you catch a fighter in the midst of their combination. So with Devin Haney, I think he needs to tighten up his defensive game. He really does. Like I said, it could be because he didn't feel that Jojo Diaz was a threat. If that was the case, that was a bad miscalculation. I thought he won, and I thought he won clearly. Like it was a competitive fight, but a clear victory for Haney. But it's not one that I think he can continue to. It's not a victory you want to take away and pat yourself on the back like you did a good job. Against a different kind of fighter, a more heavy-handed fighter, a fighter who will find those openings easier. This was not a particularly great fight. It just was not, and he was hit too much. Again, guys, he was hit a little bit too much for my taste. In the end, the scores were 117, 111 twice, 116, 112. All in favor of Haney, of course. He's staying on the feet, and he still is young. He's 23 years old, guys. He's still filling out. But he looks like he doesn't have much problem making 135 pounds. It looks like he made it quite easily, even though he did say that, if I'm not mistaken, he did say that he does not know how much longer he can keep coming down 135 pounds. Don't know what that means. Well, I mean, you know what that means, but I don't know how much it's affecting him. If he's saying it, is it affecting him a lot? Maybe. Could that be part of the reason he's performing quite poorly? I don't think so. Look, this is habitual for him. He'll sometimes admire his work. Another thing that he does is at mid-range, when he's in the pocket, he'll throw to the body. But it's very noticeable. He throws a straight right to the body. And it's a shot where I feel he's very exposed, and more advanced fighters, more technically sound fighters will look to exploit that, I feel. Again, that's that. I'm going to move on. Again, by the way, let's talk about Jojo actually a second before I move on. He's now 32-2. He's a good fighter. I just do not believe that he can win a belt at 135 pounds. Again, good fighter. It just too high quality of a division. Let's move on to Gervonta Davis. And this fight was interesting in the sense that, a lot of people were saying, oh, well, Gervonta Davis is fighting a guy who's shorter than him, who's a little bit like a mini Gervonta Davis in the sense where they're both tanky. They're two pit bulls. But that doesn't do Gervonta Davis justice. Gervonta Davis does have kind of like a pit bull look in the sense that he's beefy. He's thick, but relatively, of course. But he's a counter puncher, and you saw it again on display this fight. Of course, he wins a close unanimous decision, 115-113 twice, 116-112, and that's about right. I think I had the fight 116-112. Now, this fight changes in the 6th or 7th round, where maybe 7th, 8th. Where we found out that Gervonta Davis hurts his hand. Now, the way I had it is I scored the first 2 rounds to Cruz, with the second being 50-50, and the rest of the way up until about the 7th or 8th round, it was wide for Gervonta Davis. He was moving around, Cruz making him spin, catching him with shots left and right. I think stunned him a couple of times. Cruz fought well, And the fight was close, but a lot of people were saying like, oh, Gervonta Davis is afraid of a rematch. No, guys, there is no need for a rematch. Gervonta Davis's hand is not hurt. This is a very wide decision, or more likely, I believe, a KO victory for him. He was in full control in the 6th and 7th round before he hurts his hand. Now, of course, obviously, Cruz's style is why he hurt his hand. That kind of high guard, ducking, moving in with your head. He said he punched his head. He hurt it, broke his knuckle, broke his hand, whatever it is. Guys, yes, that is part of the game, but if he doesn't break his hand in the fight, this fight's not close. I'm sorry. It was not close after 7 rounds. As a matter of fact, like I said, that second round was 50-50. You could have given that to Gervonta Davis. And the way that I had, I think in the first 7 rounds, that would have been 6-1 for Davis. And, there was a quite significant athletic and power differentiation between these two fighters. They were not remotely close, guys, in terms of what I felt to be their capabilities as a fighter. This is, again, no offense to Cruz. He's a good fighter. He's just not Gervonta Davis. Guys, I'm telling you, the top 5 at lightweight are insane. Davis, Lomachenko, Kambosos, Lopez, Haney. You can add Garcia in there. Those 6 guys are extraordinarily high level. They can basically be every single one of them can have a Hall of Fame career going forward. I think you can argue Lomachenko's already Hall of Fame. Actually, I think he is. Yes, he is. He's not gonna have. He already has a Hall of Fame career. Everyone else could. George Linares, I think if he picked up one more of these wins, maybe he's borderline. Right now, he's not. But were he to get one of these wins, he'd be borderline. It's just that deep of a division. And for someone like Cruz, who's a good rough and tumble fighter, a counter puncher who's significantly faster than him with a decent chin, it's all sorts of wrong. Now, I will say it was interesting in the last few rounds where with Gervonta Davis not being able to use his hand, he was caught a couple of times. Cruz was able to wilt him down, and he did make it interesting. But some of the comments I'm reading on Twitter, you guys are insane. No, Gervonta Davis was not afraid. No, Gervonta Davis was not in any real danger of losing this fight. Stop it. Of course, he was happy with the decision victory because the fight wound up being much closer after 12 rounds than it was after 7. But it's not because Cruz came on. It's because Gervonta Davis had to come off due to breaking his hand. I believe Gervonta Davis, I truthfully believe it, is probably the best fighter at lightweight. I think he is probably the best fighter at lightweight. This is because Lomachenko is too small and Kambosos does not have enough pop. He has respectable pop, but not enough. And they, again, this is a very high level guy. So if I had to tell you why, Kambosos does not have enough pop. Devin Haney gets it way too much, and we've seen him stunned a couple of times. And we have Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia was dropped and hurt by Luke Campbell. Again, Luke Campbell, a good fighter, just to show how good the division is. But nonetheless, Ryan Garcia, he leaves his chin open a lot of times when he punches. Just watch some of his fights. Leaves his chin wide open when he throws. He likes to throw that left hook, but he likes to throw that left hook with his chin coming right up. If you look at the way he throws it versus the way, let's say, Lomachenko throws hooks or the way that Davis throws hooks, their chins are down and they turn with their shot. You can counter them to the body, but you're not going to counter them to the face. And this is different from Ryan Garcia, who sometimes will almost shoulder roll. But that kind of put your face up and move your shoulder. The Philly shell almost, it's not that he doesn't have a Philly shell, but that quasi almost like entering a Philly shell state. There's a reason why few fighters do it. It's a very difficult technique to master, and a lot of times you can start eating punches with your face rather than your shoulders. Not to mention you kind of become a little immobile in that stance. Yes, James Toney and Floyd Mayweather fought really well in that stance, and if you guys remember, Dimitri Pirog was able to utilize the Philly shell at points in his fight against Jacobs, eventually getting him out of there. Again, very high-level defensive stance, and you don't Ryan Garcia has proven himself to be at least defensively questionable a little bit. So, having said all that, if I had to choose who I feel is the best at lightweight, it's Davis. If I had to say, I'm going to pick him probably against every single one of these guys in all these matchups. It would be Davis, Kambosos, Haney. Right now, off the top of my head, I would go Kambosos. I believe he's a similar style to Haney, except I think he's a little bit quicker in his hands, or at least a little bit quicker. He seems to be a little bit quicker, and he just fought the better opposition in Tiafimo. This next fight, by the way, I'm going to talk about it. Actually, you know what? I'll talk about this on Thursday. I'll talk about Lomachenko Kami on Thursday. But I feel that fight's not so easy to decide. So yeah. So outside of saying what I said regarding Gervonta Davis, I don't think there's much more to say. He was catching Cruz coming in numerous times. He was winning the jabs. He was landing almost at will through the midway of a point of the fight. And then he hurts his hand. And then he couldn't keep Cruz off the same way. Guys, a lot of people saying, oh, he starts getting hit later due to the Cruz pressure. He does start to get hit later due to the Cruz pressure. But a lot of that has to do with the fact that he can't use his power hand to keep the fighter off. The fighter's no longer threatened the same way. He throws it here and there, but it clearly doesn't have the same pop. It's a different fighter. God, if he's a one-handed fighter, come on, please. So, yes, of course, it looks like Cruz won. If I take a guess, of the last 5 rounds, I think he may have won 3 of the last 5 rounds. Yeah, 3 of the last 5 rounds. Of 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, I think he won 3 of those rounds. I think maybe you can even give him 4. But I think 115, 113 is probably as close as you're going to get it with that fight. Probably as close as you're going to get it. Maybe even a draw. But I think a lot of people are calling for draws. I think giving Cruz a draw, it's like giving Andre Ward the first Kovalev fight. You're inventing rounds to give him. Like, you're purposely trying to ignore work that Davis does to give him rounds that are competitive. I think if you actually look at the rounds that Cruz won, there's 3 of them that are clear. I think every other round was competitive. I think maybe there's 1 or 2 more rounds that were actually competitive. And if you have to give him that 6th round, you're looking competitive. That was kind of even. I think Gervonta actually was the better in most of the rounds. But then you take a round where Cruz had any success, and you're like, well, you know what? I guess he had some success. Therefore, I'm going to give him the round. That's the only way you get the 6 rounds, and you're not supposed to give a fighter those rounds just because he did something. Does not mean you give him the round. If you did well for 30% of the round but lose 70% of the round, you lose that round, guys, unless that 30% was extravagant. Speaking of Pirog, so in the Jacobs fight, Jacobs would do better. It's not even better. He wouldn't be losing at portions of the round, but Pirog would land like a very significant shot. Maybe 1 or 2 of them around, but they were so significant that the 10 or 20 jabs that Jacobs landed, barely touching Pirog, would be erased by a thunderous right hand that Pirog would land so cleanly and beautifully that it was just like you couldn't. I felt like you couldn't honestly give Jacobs the round as Pirog spent 2 or 3 minutes setting up the one shot and landed it. And you saw the completion of that in the 5th round, where yet again he spends the entire round setting up the shot and ends the fight. That's ring generalship. That right there is ring. That's controlling the fight in the manner that you want to control it. So Davis wins. I don't want to see a rematch. I don't care for it if his hand is perfect. This fight does not see the 12th round or the end of the 12th round. And I would put money on that. If they actually for some reason do have a rematch, I'm just gonna take whatever I have in my betting pool that week, and it all right on Gervonta Davis to win by knockout. That's just the way it is. Again, Cruz, decent fighter, but not quite there. Let's talk about one more fight. This was on Sunday. Let's talk about Sergey Daria Chenko versus Carlos Adames or Adames. I'm not sure I pronounce it right. This has been evident with Sergey for a little bit of time now. I think at least since the Daniel Jacobs fight. He's too small for middleweight, guys. He's just too small for middleweight. And this is the truth of the matter. He can't compete with the biggest guys at middleweight. He's a little bit like Lomachenko, but he's not quite as skilled. So he's running into even more of these problems. Guys, the weight classes, please. they exist for a reason. I know people don't want to believe that weight classes exist, but they do. Weight classes, say it with me, weight classes exist for a reason. And this was one of those cases where Daria Chenko, again, after Charlo and Golovkin, just cannot hang in there with the bigger, stronger guy. Did he beat Daniel Jacobs? I don't think he beat Jacobs. I don't think he beat Jacobs. Everyone's like, oh, he beat Jacobs. He did not beat Jacobs. It was a very, very close fight, but he did not win. Gennady Golovkin. I had it surprisingly close, but he did not win. Jermel Charlo. Competitive-ish, but certainly has no save. He got lucky he didn't get stopped. And I think it looks like his time has kind of run out, I feel, at 36 years old. He's now lost to a fighter, which I'm not saying he would have beat back in the day, but I think I don't see anything from Carlos Adames that says that he is a superb kind of like top pound for pound fighter or top of the weight class kind of guy that Chenko should be losing. Now, the fight was close. He made it closer, especially towards the end. He landed a few shots. In the 12th round, I think he actually legitimately hurt. In the 12th and the 10th round, he actually legitimately hurt Adames. And he got a majority decision loss. It was 95-95, 97-93, 96-94 for Adames. And Chenko, he's got like these T-Rex arms. He looked like my friend was messaging me saying, like, this guy looks like he has, like, he's fighting in water. He just looks so slow. It wasn't so much that Adames is that athletic. He was an athletic guy, absolutely. But Chenko looked slow. He looked every bit 36. He looked every bit 36 that went with Golovkin and Charlo in his last two fights in his last 2 years. Also a long layoff, 14 months, but I think he needed it. He took a beating in that Charlo fight. He took a lot of damage. He stood up. This guy has had a decent level of opposition over his last 5 fights, and he just wasn't able to crack it. Over his last 5 fights, he's 1-4. The losses to Jacobs, Golovkin, Charlo, now, and Adames. Only beating Jake Kulke, or Kulse, or however, Jack. I don't know how you want to say it, but I like Chenko. He came across the pond at the same time with Usyk and Lomachenko. I guess at this, at the same time, right? The 2012 Olympics. At the same time, and he was part of this Ukraine kind of invasion that you had, and he fought well, but he clearly is not the. Evidently now. I think it's been evident for a little bit of time, but he's not of the caliber of Usyk or Lomachenko. Good fighter. Be a B-level fighter, a solid B-level fighter, good skill, okay pop, not much speed towards the end. But, I think he did himself well. The career was good. It's unfortunate he wasn't really able to win a belt, right, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think he actually won a real belt. No. And I don't think he will. I think his time is up. If you look at middleweight, like they're saying, oh, can he kind of regroup? And, Golovkin's still here. Eubank, Lara, Charlo, Andrade, Munguia. Can these Adames is here, Liam Williams? Can he beat these guys? I don't think so. Not at 36. Not anymore. He can't. I think his time has run out, and I think he was just a little bit undersized. I think if he should have stayed at super middleweight. It's a much more reasonable division. You look at who's over there. There's Costa 2's son. There's the younger Charlo. A much more reasonable division, I feel, than what we wound up having at 160, which is still a pretty good division, even after Canelo left and Golovkin is no longer the same Golovkin. Again, there's some divisions where, you're a good fighter, but you're never going to crack it. It reminds me of Povetkin a little bit. A good fighter, but just not good enough to capture a heavyweight title when the two guys are Klitschko and then Joshua. He just wasn't quite able to do it. I felt he was a little bit too old for Joshua when he fought him. And, and that happens sometimes. Sometimes you either don't have the style for your era or whatever it is, and you just never win a belt. you just never win a belt. And that's that. Anyway, guys, it's good to be back. That was our post fight of this weekend. And we had, again, back-to-back fights, Saturday, Sunday. Love it. I love as much boxing as I can get him. And again, next week we got this weekend we got Chenko. It's gonna be nice. Again, I'll talk about and I'll see you guys on a Thursday. It's over.